Are right at 6:03, and I want to respect your time. So before we get started, I am going to take care of a few housekeeping items. So this is our website. It's the URL, or you can take your camera and look at our QR code, and that'll also bring up our website. On our website, there's all kinds of fun things to explore. We have a whole area for college and career readiness. And then we also have another section that covers career technical education classes that we have at the high school, and our Link Learning Academies that we have as well. If you have an 8th grader, our Link Learning Academy recruitment will be starting up in January. So watch your email box, because we'll be sending a lot of information out for the parent nights and also for the application deadlines. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. If you have questions for our guest tonight, you can go down to the Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen and type in those questions, and I will make sure that our guest gets to all of your questions and answers those as we go along. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and ask Chandler to join us. Hi, Chandler.
Hi, Paige.
So glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me.
So Chandler, you received your bachelor's of science in marine biology, correct?
Incorrect. So the program I went to at UC Santa Barbara only did Bachelor of Arts degrees. And
Okay.
basically their idea behind that was, even though they wanted you to have a focus, they wanted to show you other things. So you had a bit more of a diverse background, which was really awesome. And they don't have a marine biology degree at UC Santa Barbara. So I did general biology. But that was probably the best thing I could have ever done. I didn't specify right away when I went into college. Then I got that advice from a lot of people working in the field, that if you want to do marine biology, kind of see what you want to do with it, and you can specify as marine biology a bit further down the line.
Well, that's good advice to hear. So Chandler, I know you had some really great experiences while you were going through college and high school to get ready for marine biology. One being getting certified in scuba diving. Can you kind of tell us about that experience and what that kind of did for you in college?
Sure. So when I was in high school, I was volunteering at the Monterey Bay Aquarium, where I now work. And I volunteered there all through high school. And of course, they have the feeding shows where they have a diver come into the tank and hand feed some of the fish in the kelp forest exhibit. Always looked like so much fun. And starting to look into colleges, one of the really fun opportunities that some schools have is you can become scientific diver certified after you have your regular certification. And so you can go with your little underwater notepad that's waterproof and do research underwater. So I always thought that that was something I wanted to do in college. So I got certified my senior year of high school. It was completely separate from school. It was something I did on my own time. Took a couple of weekend courses at one of the local dive shops. I went to high school in Monterey, so there were a lot of dive shops in the area. So I had a lot to choose from, and a lot are doing good Groupon deals right now too, just saying. But it was really awesome to get certified. And unfortunately, I did not do much with it in college. A lot of jobs, though, really like seeing that for marine biology, especially for me personally, working at an aquarium. Most positions that we do have, they want you to be able to dive into the tank if they need you to, if you need to clean something, if you need to go collect something, something gets dropped. So there's a lot of opportunities there. I could have taken the scientific diver course in school, but my schedule didn't really allow for it. And unfortunately, it's an expensive hobby, and I didn't have the pocket change at the time to get enough dives just on my own under my belt to qualify for the course. But if scuba diving is something that you're really interested in, I highly recommend it. It is one of the most amazing experiences that you can have, is being able to breathe under the water. Here in California, it's really, really cold, but everything that you see underwater is beautiful. It's wonderful. It's magical.
That sounds exciting. How far out would you go? Do the boats take you out, or would you start at shore, or?
It depends on who you get certified through. The course that I took, we only did shore dives. So we put on all 50 pounds of our gear and really thick wetsuits, hoods, boots, gloves. You could barely move. It was so much. But that's necessary because the water's, on a good day, 55 degrees here where I got certified. But we just walked into the water. We started with some pool dives, so in a nice, safe, shallow situation, so you could be comfortable breathing underwater. And then the last few dives that we got to do were in the ocean. But there are I have some friends that got certified through different companies, and they did some boat dives. Now, starting off, we only went to 15 to 30 feet deep, so it wasn't anything crazy. Something you could theoretically just swim to if you wanted to. But those are more advanced classes if you want to go deeper than that.
So you didn't end up using the certification to do research while you were in college, but you did do some research, correct?
I did. I helped in a couple of different research projects, some through school, some were more internships outside of school. That were kind of all over the place. I worked in one lab that was kind of funny. One of the things that they were looking at was how many baby microscopic marine animals they would see for a collection. And how they collected them was, you know, those big deck brushes that you use to scrub the ground. They would take the deck brush and put it underwater for a certain amount of time. And it was my job, along with a bunch of other people, to rinse off those brushes really, really well. And you can't see these animals. They are super tiny. You needed a microscope. And we would take all of the samples under the microscope and count one by one of every single tiny animal that we found. Baby clams, baby shrimp, all kinds of things. Really great opportunity. But I learned I did not like using a microscope. So that was something that I tried, found out that I didn't particularly enjoy it. But I was really thankful that I got to see if I would. And I decided to go in a different direction.
So when you were setting up these internships and these experiences, was that something where the professors approached you and said, hey, do you want to do this? Or is that something that you had to seek out and say, can I, where do I, knock on some doors?
Mm-hmm. Most of my things, I went out of my way to see what opportunities that I could pursue. One of the great things about UC Santa Barbara is the particular college I was in at the university, the College of Creative Studies, and it is more research-based for that specific college. So you get accepted into UC Santa Barbara, and then you get accepted to that college. But for the biology department there, they're very research heavy. They want to see you doing research in labs. And all of the advisors are faculty there that are doing their own research. So they can point you kind of in the right direction, and they know everybody on campus, so they can help you find where you might fit in best. But for the most part, I kind of had to go around and figure out what I wanted to do and who I could do it with. A lot of what I did was outside of school. So I did a lot of summer internships. Two of my favorite ones were actually while I was studying abroad in Alaska, the summer before my senior year of college. And I was working with one of them. I was working with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Department on sea otter strandings, and learned a whole lot about sea otters. And most of that internship was walking the beaches in Alaska, looking for reports of ones that had washed up on shore and might need help.
Okay, so what made you decide Alaska? And let's go do an internship in Alaska.
So that one was a funky one. One of the things that UC Santa Barbara did have was they would send you, you could sign up for these email notifications for different experiences, volunteering, internships, things like that. And I actually did not get that particular internship on my email list. One of my classmates did because she wasn't in the College of Creative Studies like I was. She was, I think she was a zoology major at the time. And so she got a different email list than I did. And thankfully she told me about it. And she's like, hey, it's marine mammals. It kind of sounds like it's up your alley. You might want to check this out. And so she sent me the link and I started looking into it. And it was, as soon as I read into it, it was directly up my alley. And I knew I want to go to Alaska this summer. And it took me all of 30 seconds to decide that was something I really wanted to do. And unless I didn't get accepted into the program, there was nothing that was going to stop me from doing that. And it was a bit of a study abroad program. It kind of fell into that category because it went into the school year. So I was in Homer, Alaska for about 5 months, taking classes focused on marine biology while also doing 3 internships.
3?
3.
Okay, explain the 3.
They all took a different amount of time. So one was with the Stranding Network for Marine Mammals, and then the other 2 were more computer work, also marine mammals. One was with a killer whale researcher. I would go into his office and help him log his research data. So unfortunately for me, I did not get to go out on his boats and do research in person, but I was helping him catalog all of his data. What type of killer whale he saw that day? Did they see something that it ate? Did they collect pieces of what it ate? So I got to help log all of that. And then the other research was just a small snippet of time. It didn't take very long, but I was cataloging photographs of humpback whale tails. It's just like humans have different fingerprints. Each humpback whale has a different color pattern on the bottom of their fluke of their tail. And
well, that's
so
kind of interesting.
It was very interesting. We were, the researcher was compiling a catalog of all the different ones that they tended to see in her research area. So I was helping with that.
So I tell students, your degree gets you the interview. Your experiences through your internships actually get you the job. Would you agree with that?
I think I would agree with that. Yes. Most jobs that I've at least looked into or have applied for, definitely all of the ones that I've had personally, want you to have at least a bachelor's degree. Some of them actually just an associate's degree of some sort. So they do want to see that you have some type of schooling outside of high school. But they also really want you to have experience. And unfortunately, sitting in a classroom, even if it is in college, doesn't always get you that experience. So if you can go outside and do internships, volunteering, unfortunately in marine biology, most of those are unpaid, which is not awesome. Sorry, my cat is trying to come say hello. But all the experience that you can get from any type of internship or volunteer experience, that's going to be how you figure out what you want to do.
So talking to some other students while they did internships in college, one of the trends I've seen is that the paid internships, you actually get to do less because they want you to complete a specific task. They want something that's worth their money paying you. Whereas if you're unpaid, they're more likely to say, oh, try this, try that, because they don't feel like that you always have to produce something for them, and you get a broader range of experiences. What are your thoughts?
It makes sense, but coming from all the internships that I did, one of them or two of them maybe had a very small stipend. And by very small stipend, I'm talking months of work for $250, and that was it. And most of them didn't pay anything except experience. So I can't say from personal experience that I have witnessed that, but it does make sense. Most of the internships that I had, we had a specific goal and specific tasks to complete, and funds for those internships were generally just not in the budget.
Fair enough. So you made your way through UC Santa Barbara, you graduated.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us what your experiences have been at Monterey Bay Aquarium.
Amazing. I was fortunate enough to volunteer here all through high school, and being on the volunteer end of things, got to go do some really cool job shadows and see what all the aquarists were up to, and get to meet a ton of cool people through the aquarium and who still work there. I mean, when I started in 2008 as a freshman in high school, some of the same staff members are still there, and they'll still say hi to me. They're like, "Oh, hey, how's it going, Chandler? It's so great that you're actually here as an adult now," which is totally wild because that's well over 10 years ago at this point. But volunteered all through high school, left for college, graduated college in 2016. And then the first job that I was offered after I applied for about 50 right after graduation, all over the country, all kinds of different positions, just trying to get something. And I ended up getting hired for a guest experience position at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. And guest experience, for the most part, is a fancy way of saying cashier. So mostly I was at the ticketing and membership booths. But a lot of helping people navigate through the aquarium, talking them through what kind of tours and programs that we offered, just chatting with people most of the day, which was really cool. Now I knew I didn't want to stay in that department. I knew guest experience wasn't going to be long-term for me. It was more something to try and get my foot in the door as a paid staff at the aquarium rather than just a volunteering on the side also. But starting to get to know the staff that actually work there. But then I left in the following year in 2017 to pursue a job opportunity down in LA, realized LA wasn't for me, moved back to Monterey, and now I have my current job at the Monterey Bay Aquarium. My title, super fancy, I'm an education learning labs technician, which is a really fancy wordy way of saying that I am an aquarist for the education department. So basically what I do is I do what a normal aquarist does, but I have additional duties on top of that. So I take care of all of the animals that we have separate for school groups and for teacher institutes. So I'm in charge of a lot of animals at the moment, a lot of small tanks, a lot of animals, mostly invertebrates, abalone, sea urchins, anemones, things like that, hermit crabs, lots of hermit crabs. And I also help set up and plan for labs and school groups. Right now, because of the pandemic, unfortunately, we don't have kids in person right now, so I'm not doing so much of the setting up. But the animals still need to eat. They still need clean tanks. So I'm around taking care of them around the clock.
That sounds really interesting. So now that with the pandemic, if the students aren't able to come in, are you doing things through Zoom with the students?
Yes, our teaching staff has been teaching this entire time, even though the Monterey Bay Aquarium closed its doors to the public for about 14 months. Our teaching staff has been coming up with new programs online, and they're teaching live online as well. So we're planning on bringing students back at some point in 2022. We're all really excited for it. We're craving it. The animals miss people. I miss people. Everyone misses all the kids. But yes, they're teaching online and doing a lot of that, which is really great. They've been able to continue.
Well, I think you're off to a good start, and you're still young. So what are your long-term goals, do you think, with marine biology?
I am very happy where I am. I love the Monterey Bay Aquarium, and my job is a very unique one, and I really, really love it. Not to say I'm not open to other opportunities. And my job actually has a lot of room for growth, and there's a lot of changes that are happening as we're coming off of the pandemic. Things are always changing, so there's also potential opportunities in the future. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know looking long term. I want to be involved with the Monterey Bay Aquarium for as long as possible, preferably in my current position, which has been a lot of fun. And it's okay. I've learned that it's okay to not have your complete set path. Mine has changed so many times in the last few years. It keeps changing. Let's see, when I was in 8th grade and decided I thought marine biology was really cool, I pursued all through high school. Yeah, I'm going to apply to colleges. I want to do marine biology. I'm going to start with biology because that's what all the people say I should do. Get a general biology degree, and then I'm going to go get my master's degree, and then I'm going to get my doctorate degree. But that's all I had at the time. So I was applying for all these scholarships, and because they always ask, oh, what are your long-term goals? Why would you be a good fit for our scholarship? And most of the ones I applied to wanted to see you go through the upper echelons of schooling. They wanted you to get your master's and your doctorate, which at the time is what I thought I wanted to do. And then actually going to college and trying all these different internships and volunteering in all kinds of different facilities and different types of work, I realized I did not want to get my master's, and I did not want to get my doctorate. And I found out that what I wanted to do didn't require that much schooling. And why would I pay more money to get schooling, additional schooling, if I don't need that for the job that I really want? And so I look like I'm still in high school. I'm 27, but I still look like I'm in high school. So I'll get people asking me all the time, especially when we have school groups and their parents come in to the labs. And they're like, oh, are you in school, or what do you want to do when you grow up? I'm like, oh, I'm doing it. I'm exactly where I want to be. I have my degree in biology, and I can call myself a marine biologist because that is exactly what I'm doing. But it has changed several times down the line. I've stuck with marine biology, but it's jumped around from, do you want to do research? Do you want to do animal care? Do you want to be a professor? There's all types of opportunities, even just within the field of marine biology.
So what are the more popular schools to go to then for marine biology?
Oh, there are a bunch. But one thing that I would recommend anybody wanting to pursue that is don't limit yourself to the marine biology major. So I wanted to go to UC Santa Barbara. I knew they're doing great work in marine biology, but they don't actually offer a marine biology major. They have an aquatic biology major, and they have microbiology and general biology. I decided to go the general biology route because I really don't like freshwater systems. So I didn't want to do aquatic biology if I was going to have to focus on freshwater. I'm really more of a marine type person. So UC Santa Barbara is one of those that has great opportunities, but is missing the marine biology major, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. UC Santa Cruz is another one. That was my number 2 school. And they are doing so much amazing research with marine mammals on site. They have rehabilitated sea lions and sea otters and dolphins in their care that they're doing really amazing work with. I'm pretty sure one of their teams figured out that sea lions can keep a beat to music, which is kind of funky. Like they taught the sea lion to keep a beat, and so he'll like bob his head with the music as they play different songs, and he knows how to do that now, which is something totally random that you wouldn't think would count as research, but it does, because mammals are all different, and you wouldn't think a sea lion knows what to do with music, but apparently they do. CSU Monterey Bay is another one. I have a lot of friends in the area that have gone to that school and stuck around in this area to work at the Monterey Bay Aquarium afterwards. And that school and UC Santa Cruz, they both do a lot of work with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. I believe CSU Monterey Bay is one of the schools that does. They actually have a scientific diving program, and you get to dive in one of the tanks in the Monterey Bay Aquarium as part of that class, which is really hard to get to do, which is awesome.
So how about Hawaii? I remember you looking at schools in Hawaii.
Yes, Hawaii. Hawaii is another one. That was going to be the University of Hawaii at Manoa on Oahu. That one would have been really cool. They do have a great program there as well. And it's Hawaii. You can't get much better diving action than there. So I'm sure their dive program is phenomenal as well. But Hawaii was a bit too far from home for me.
And that's a good point. You could go off to Hawaii to have this great experience, but if you are uncomfortable because it's too far from home or not where you want to be, you're probably not going to be as successful as staying where you have access to family and friends, if that's what you need. I mean, there are kids that could go halfway across the world and have no problems. But I think the majority of people like to stay a little closer to home sometimes.
It's definitely a personal preference. For me personally, went to high school in Monterey, but as soon as I left for college, my family moved back to Visalia. I grew up in Visalia, and then they moved back after I graduated high school. And thankfully, UC Santa Barbara to Visalia was roughly a 3-hour drive. So about the same from Monterey to Visalia. So it wasn't a huge distance. And I brought my car with me freshman year of college. So I was able to make that trip back and forth, and my parents visited often. But one of my best friends growing up, she was an individual that would get homesick so easily. Staying at my house for sleepovers when we were in middle school was a challenge. She'd end up calling her mom to pick her up in the middle of the night very often. Her family's also from Visalia. She ended up going to school in University of Oregon. So, and she did great there. She was able to get through that and loved Oregon. And now she's working in the San Francisco area. But she also wanted to do marine biology, and University of Oregon's another great spot for it. Very different from California because they have a different ecosystem there. But they are also doing amazing marine biology work at that school too. And that's what she wanted to do.
Very good. So Chandler, in thinking back at your whole experience and thinking back if you were in elementary or middle school or beginning of high school again, what would your advice to students be?
I think I would advise checking out different things. If you're traveling with your family or if you're traveling with your friends and where you're going, if you think marine biology might be something cool for you, if where you're traveling has an aquarium, go check out that aquarium. That's something that I love doing when I travel, is I love visiting different zoos and aquariums. I also spent some time as a zookeeper as well. But that's also something that we did a lot growing up, is my parents would take me to all these different places. We'd go to the beach, we'd go tide pooling, we'd explore the tide pools and see what animals were there. We'd go to the aquariums if they were around. Also, for those of you watching this, tuning into things like this, it's really, really great to be able to chat either one-on-one or just listen to a talk like this of people that are actually working in the field that you're interested in. That was a huge thing for me, even though I didn't really start doing that until high school or college. that was something, everyone's going to have something different to say because everybody has a different job, but that really helps open your eyes to all the different possibilities of a field you're interested in. So like marine biology isn't just research, even though I talk to a lot of researchers going into it. But then you have the aquarius side of things or the collection side of things, and even people who run whale watching tours. So the tourism industry, that's also marine biology. So it's all kinds of things, but experiencing all the different things and really doing your own research. When you're starting to think about college and think about where you might want to go, definitely do that research about the school, what kinds of research or programs that they have. Like if you're really big into marine mammals, don't go to a school that doesn't do anything with marine mammals. Doesn't mean they don't have them on site, but you want to have at least a professor there that has worked with marine mammals, because that would be something that is really great. Or if the school you really want to go to, sticking with marine mammals, if none of the professors do anything with marine mammals, maybe there's an organization in the area that does, and you can spend your time with them. So look outside of the school that you're looking into. Focus on the school, but then look outside of the school to see what else is in the area, because you don't want to spend your entire time on campus. You want to be able to go do other things. One of the big things for me for UC Santa Barbara is they have their own beach on campus. I would go in between classes and just hang out on the beach and collect shells, watch people surf. And it's one of the only schools anywhere in the world that actually has that opportunity. Even UC Santa Cruz, you think it's on the beach, but it's not. It's up a hill. They have a great view, but they are not on a beach.
So Chandler, I'm going to open it up to our audience and see if they have any questions. And while they start typing in their questions, I'm going to ask you another question. So to our audience right now, if you have questions for Chandler, go down to the Q&A feature at the bottom and type in those questions, and we'll address those to her. Chandler, how was the transition from high school to college in terms of grades, family, being far away?
That it's very different. High school to college is a very, very big difference. I mean, you always see in the movies, it's the stereotypical big fish in a little pond. You're getting the top of your grades in your class in high school, where you maybe have a couple thousand people in your high school, and that's 4 years, but your graduating class is maybe 300 to 500. And then you go to college where there's literally 20,000 undergraduate students. And that's not even considering the master's students that might be studying there too. And one of my first classes was, it wasn't even an upper division class, but typically you can't get in until you're a junior in college, just because that's how many people are trying to get into that class. And then it's an introductory biology course. So that's the first class you're supposed to have as a biology major, but they won't even let you get in until you're further down the line. But because of the program I was in, they got us in as freshmen to kind of jumpstart that so that we could get into upper division courses more quickly, which I'm very thankful for. That was great. But that was the first C I had ever gotten in a class. And I was doing my best. I was studying really, really hard. And it was such an eye-opening experience going from a straight A student to, oh my goodness, I'm getting a C. What happened? And it wasn't anything that I did personally. It's a class with about 600 students in it. So it's a class that's bigger than my graduating high school class. And we're all in the same class. We're all trying to get through it together. And unfortunately, that was a course that they call a weeder course, where they're asking really hard questions because they're trying to knock out all the people that think it might not be for them. But thankfully I got through it and I didn't have to take that course again.
But what you're saying is very typical of the freshman transition to college. And I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of kids understand that. So when they get to college and they are not getting the grades that they're used to, that they had in high school, they start questioning whether they're supposed to be at college or not. So I think it's great that you're bringing this up so that kids can understand that it does take a while to get used to studying for college level courses. Even if
Mhm.
you've taken classes at the community college, the UC system, CSU, it's a little more competitive and a little faster pace. And
Mhm.
so at first, grades aren't going to be where you want, but eventually, like you said, you get there.
Mhm. And it's like in high school, there's maybe 30, 50 teachers, and everybody gets the same teachers, and you can talk to your friend who had them last semester or the previous year. But for college, there's so many different courses that it's always another teaching style to get used to. It's a new teaching style. It's a new way to take tests. It's really a new way to learn how to study. And it took me a long time to figure out how to study properly for college. And I felt like I didn't figure out how to do it right until I was about graduated. But it's
But you
life
didn't
is a
give up.
learning experience. College is a learning experience. Um, did I get as good grades in college as I did in high school? Definitely not. Did I have friends that did? Absolutely. Everybody is different, and everybody has a different college experience, and everybody takes different classes. You're not going to find a person going to the same school as you that has the exact same classes at the exact same time you take them. Everybody's going to be a different mishmash. So every experience is different.
Good point. So we do have some good questions popping up. So I'm going to read those off to you. Our first question is, what kind of high schools are recommended for marine biology?
High schools.
High schools.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I really don't know specifically for high school. So for me personally, I grew up in Visalia, but my dad promoted in his job and moved our family to Monterey right before I started high school. And while my parents were looking into what high school they might send me to, Monterey High School popped up because they had a specific academy that was specifically math, technology, engineering, sciences. And it's called MAOS, the Monterey Academy of Oceanographic Sciences. So all of our field trips in that academy were really ocean based. We went on behind the scenes tours at the aquarium. We went kayaking. We went tide pooling at the beach. We did fun little research projects on the beach. So stuff like that. But I wouldn't say you necessarily need to be too worried about what high school you go to in order to pursue marine biology as a career. If you're fortunate enough to end up at a high school that has something that's focused like that, that's pretty awesome. But it's not necessary. Most of what you're going to do is going to be in college, and high school is really just going to kind of get you the nudge to get that experience for the grades and whatever extracurriculars you might need to get into the college that you're going to be able to focus more into.
Now, the UCs offer some summer programs for high school students.
Ooh, they do. That is a great point. A couple different summer programs I did while I was in high school. One is called Cosmos, COSMOS, and they have it at a couple of different UCs, University of California schools. The first one that I did was right after my freshman year. It was marine biology focused, and for a couple weeks, I got to live at UC Santa Cruz and kind of take courses in marine biology. And so the ones that I decided to do were more marine mammal focused. And so one of the classes, we got to look at marine mammal bones and skulls and look at all the differences between a harbor seal versus a Weddell seal and a crab eating seal and a sea lion, and all these different tiny little intricate details, and we got to learn about the bone structures. One of the other classes was just how marine mammals are able to be in the water, unlike humans. And that one was really, really cool. It was super fun because you were also doing those courses with the professors that actually teach at that school. And I was just about to be a sophomore in high school. So kind of getting that introductory into this is what a college professor is, and this is how college professors teach things. That was really fun. And it wasn't like we had tests or anything, so it wasn't actually school, but it was academic and fun at the same time. Another thing that I did was right before my senior year was another program like that at UC Santa Barbara, and I got to live in the dorms for a month, and we did research projects. They introduced us to a couple of the different professors and teaching assistants and what research they were doing. We got to kind of pick our top 3, and then they sorted us from there. And I ended up doing a research project on sea urchins in the kelp forest with one of the professors there. And she was actually still there when I went there as a student. So I got to go say hi to her and her pet snake in her office while I was there, even though that was a couple years prior.
So for our audience right now, if you looked at our December newsletter, there are a list of summer programs for high school students. And I put all the links in the newsletter, including Cosmos. So if these are things that you're interested in, you can take a look at that newsletter and start researching it. The due dates to apply for this coming summer are coming up soon. They do have some great scholarships. Mm-hmm. So don't just look at the price and go, oh, I don't think we can do that. Apply for the scholarships and see if that works for you. Next question, and this is reality. Are you able to support yourself and live in Monterey with the job you have now?
That is a really great question. And I'm really impressed that you're asking that. Yes, I am. The housing here in Monterey is unfortunately kind of crazy and expensive depending on where you are looking. But I'm now married, and so my husband and I, with our combined, we can live in a nicer place. But when I first graduated from college, I was actually able to rent my own apartment for just me. While I was working at the aquarium, making about minimum wage at the time. I make more than that now in my job, but when I first started, it wasn't a whole lot of money, but I was able to support myself and find housing that was decent.
Yeah, and that's the hard part is wanting to follow your passions and your dreams, but the reality is there are bills along the way too.
Mm-hmm, definitely, and unfortunately, marine biology is not one of those like a lawyer where you're going to make $200,000 a year. I have never seen that much money. It's not something that pays a lot, and it's not a glamorous job. For what I do personally, I come home soaking wet in salt water every single day and probably smelling like fish because I'm working with fish. But that's not something that I mind. I'm a person who likes to get wet and dirty, and I like to get my hands in things. I like to do things messy personally. But that was one of the reasons why I knew this job was going to be good for me. Not that it pays an extravagant amount of money, but I honestly feel that I'm paid a good amount for what I do. And one of the nice things about a lot of jobs is that if you're there for a little bit of time and they see you're doing really good work, especially where I am right now, they tend to try and bump you up if they can, and they do try and give you raises.
That's good to know. We have another great question. It says, what is your typical workday like for you, including job duties and even stressors?
Oh, that's a good question too. So like I said, my job as a lab technician is pretty unique. And I'm actually split in between 2 buildings at the moment. So I'm at the main campus of the aquarium. We have 2 classrooms with animals in them for students to experience. that is separate from the main aquarium. There's a door in between the two, but it is by myself for the most part. And then we have our, in 2019, we just opened our new education building down the street, and we have 4 classrooms, each with 2 tanks, 200-gallon tanks in each of those classrooms. So I have 8 tanks to take care of down the street as well. So I'm back and forth a lot. I definitely get my steps in. But a typical day for me looks like doing basic tank cleaning and maintenance. If anything breaks, I'm the one that gets to fix it. I want to make sure that our tanks look really pretty. Make sure everybody is healthy and happy. Make sure everybody is fed enough. If they're not being fed enough, I need to figure out how to get enough food for them. Specifically, a lot of my animals are herbivores and eat kelp. And so that seaweed, there's not a lot of it in the winter. So they kind of go through a bit more of a fasting period where they don't get a lot of food in the winter just because it's not as available. But that is a natural condition that they face in the wild. So they kind of just get to experience that anyway. Not that they're not eating, they're just not getting as much, which it's just a thing that they have to deal with in the wild. I do quite a bit of computer work. I answer a lot of emails. I also take part in a lot of different meetings, mostly via Zoom at the moment. A lot of my coworkers, teaching staff, they are not on site. They are working from home because they can teach just like we're doing this meeting. They can do all their teaching with a school group full of kids from the computer. But a lot of meetings. Most jobs have a lot of meetings, just kind of a necessary evil. Not that it's a stressor, but I don't really have a lot of stressors at my job, which is kind of cool. The main stressor I have is my work commute to and from work. Just getting to and from my house to where I work is the main stressor, just because there's traffic in the mornings and on the way home. But at my job itself, not a lot of stress. It's pretty great. Sometimes there's a bit more of a time crunch if I have a lot of meetings going on and I don't have as much time to do deep cleaning as I'd like. But that's more of just being able to be flexible and make things work and work a little bit faster than normal and stuff like that.
Well, sounds like you really love what you do and it really comes through. We have a question from our youngest audience member, Nolan, who's in kindergarten. And he wants to know what Chandler's favorite animal to work with is.
Ooh, so I don't work with these right now, but I used to, and that would be the sea lion. I used to work at a rehabilitation hospital for sea lions, and that was another really fun job. So anytime that they would wash up sick or hurt, we would take them in and take care of them until they were nice, fat, and healthy, and we'd release them back to the ocean. But sea lions, they're kind of just like big puppy dogs, but they do a lot more biting. So they can be really naughty at times, but they're really great to work with. But what the animal I think I enjoy working with most right now is probably the abalone. And I'm sure you've probably seen what an abalone shell looks like. They're really, really pretty. Some people eat them. It's actually a type of ocean snail, which is kind of funky. And you wouldn't really think that a snail would be all that fun to work with, but they are kind of packed full of personality. I have about 100 of them that I work with right now. The youngest ones are about 3 years old. They're all about this size. And then the oldest ones are about as old as me. So they're in their late 20s and they can live until they're about 50 years old. And we've had these particular ones for over 20 years. So we don't know exactly how old they are. We just know that they're at least 20 something years old and they're about this big. So they are huge, old, full of personality snails. And when they get really mad at each other, like one will try to climb on top of the other, they just roll like this to try and shake whoever's on top of their shell off of them. and they're always really, really hungry. So they're really fun to feed too. They like seaweed. So if I'll offer them a little bit of seaweed, they make sure to snatch it from me. And then if I try and get it back, I'm not getting it back. They have a really tight grip.
That's really interesting because when you think abalone, the last thing I would think is personality. So that's kind of fun.
Yeah, they're not always very nice to each other, but they keep things interesting.
Well, Chandler, I think our audience has asked all of their questions. Is there anything else you'd like to finish up with tonight?
I don't think so. Marine biology is awesome and fun and can go in so many different directions. When you say marine biology, it's the entire ocean. So marine biology, that's what the earth is 70% ocean. So that's 70% of this planet. You can go something for microbiology where you're looking at tiny little plankton samples under the microscope. You can go up to working with marine mammals like the blue whale, the largest animal that's ever been on the planet. You can do plants, you can do rocks, actually. There's so many different places to be, so many things that you can do, and really anywhere in the world, anywhere, even somewhere that's landlocked. If I was in Tennessee right now, I could still do marine biology. I'd probably be working at an aquarium, but that's still marine biology because personally I love animal care, and that's a type of marine biology too. So there's so many different routes that you can take. And so if you're really thinking about marine biology, check out all the different things you can do. And even if it's like going on YouTube or Discovery Channel and watching like behind the scenes job things, go see what an oceanographer does. Go see what deep sea researchers do on a boat. Go see what marine mammal trainers do. Check out all the different avenues, and it's going to be a lot of fun looking into it and seeing what you like and what you don't like. And there's a lot of opportunities out there.
So you sparked another question from our audience. We have a question that says, I have seen some places in aquariums where they raise jellyfish and other small creatures. What type of job would that be?
Depending on where you're looking, I would say that that's probably an aquarist. I work with a lot of aquarists at my current job, and one of my coworkers, not in the education department, but in the animal care department, he raises jellyfish. And he actually just got back from a collections trip collecting deep sea jellies, hopefully for our deep sea exhibit that's opening next year. And so his title is aquarist, and he's been doing it for a very, very long time. And he actually started in my position. So he used to be a lab technician, and now he's doing all that awesome jellyfish research. But yeah, I think you probably look under aquarist for that one.
Well, thank you for that answer. Chandler, everything you've presented tonight has been so interesting, and I think our students got a lot out of hearing from you tonight. So I want to thank you for spending your time with us this evening and sharing your experiences with us. And I wish you the very best in your future. I'll be keeping a close eye on and see, hear what you're doing. But thank you for joining us tonight, and thank you to our audience members for joining us tonight. And we will have another Ignite Your Curiosity next month. We'll post that in our newsletter. And thank you to everyone. We'll see you later. Bye.